It's our favorite time of year to be a duck hunter, but we're always looking for something new and improved to go to, so let's look at some decoys that might be good for you. What's up everybody and welcome back to Outdoor Gear. My name is Aaron Bottoms and today we're going to look at something that waterfowlers can never have enough of, and that is decoys. We always need the fresh paint, we need the new design, we need blah 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 blah. We love our decoys. More specifically, we're going to look at some higher end decoys, I would like to call them, that are supposed to be super durable and have a pretty good rep for themselves. So let's get into it. What we're talking about are DOA Decoys, partnered up or made by Beavertail. They're fairly new to the decoy game, but they seem to be a pretty good product just from sight alone. They feel heavy, durable, but do we need all that? Do we want all that? Let's really dig into them and really see what they've got going on. We will start off with the goose itself. Now, the nice thing about these decoys is their paint job. That's a big thing for them, is having ultra realistic paint job. Now we'll get into some tests to see how this paint job holds up. However, as you can see, there's lots of detail in the carving. You've got lots of feather marks here, which are great. These both, the male we're going to look at and the goose decoys, they come in a 6-pack. They have 3 different head positions, and for the goose itself, you've got it's a 2-piece. So this head right here comes off, and you can interchange. If you lose a head, you can buy replacements, but you can kind of make it look like it's looking this way, if it's looking back. Personal preference on where you put your head. Now with the head, this bill is very nice. A lot of times you'll run into goose decoys having a cheesy plastic looking bill, but this one's very nice. It's got a big difference between the flocked head to the bill to the white on the cheeks, and it's a pretty good paint job overall. I prefer a little bit dull of a look when it comes to my decoys. This is a little bit more shiny than I would like. The white is very bright, which is nice because you want that difference, you really do. But again, not in a bad way. Decoys are all personal preference. You may like what you like, I may like what I like. It all depends. So overall, pretty good decoy looking like. The carve I really like. Again, the feather detail. The keel down here is nice. I would prefer that it would have another tie-off point right here, simply because I like to tie my decoys sometimes in the front, sometimes in the back. That way, if the wind blows, you got your decoys swinging different ways, and they're not all pointing the same direction. But again, personal preference. You can always tie down here, wrap a loop right here when you put your decoy in the water, and it'll do the same thing. So not a bad thing, but overall, pretty good looking decoy right there. Nice feather tails, all that stuff. So let's look at the mallard. Now on this one, again, it's the shininess of the paint for me. The iridescence they're going for here, that's all fine and dandy. It's all personal preference. I like a little bit dull, so that when the birds see it, it doesn't and there's no shine coming off of them. The bill itself here looks pretty nice, good detail. Again, on this decoy, you've got all these back feathers that have super fine details. Another key aspect about the paint, I should say, is that it's hand painted. Each decoy is apparently hand painted. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I can't really fact check them or go to their factory. So if it's hand painted, great. I mean, it's not bad paint. These tail feathers here are amazing to me. Just the detail that went into them, I really like that. You've got your curl, could be a double curl, but you don't want to get too cheesy with it. And again, the keel down here, I wish it had another tie-off point. But yeah, I mean, not bad decoys. These are all personal preference. Again, I'm really trying to show you what the decoy is made of, what it can handle, all that stuff. It is your choice on what decoy you get. But, I mean, it's solid. I can push in on it a little bit, and the sides dent in a little bit, but they pop right back out. Compared to this cork decoy I have, which weighs a lot more, probably 2 or 3 times more. You know, this is pretty light. Even the goose itself is maybe about same as this little wood duck decoy I have. So let's get into the test, because that's what we're really here to see, is what these decoys can handle. So right off the bat, I want to take my hammer and I just want to see what I can do to this paint job. You know, maybe just take the back end here and see what I get. And surprisingly, it seems to be pretty deep paint. You know, you're getting a little bit of this tear up right here, but overall, that tear up is not bad. It's just a little of the gray coming out. Yeah, not really doing any damage to the paint itself. And the decoy's holding up. What about this goose? Ooh, got a little dent there. Let's see if we can pop it back out. Pops back out. Cool. The head. Flocked heads are very tricky. The flocking, I mean, got pushed down, but rub it out. Take our hammer again. And again, you're just getting a little bit of that side tearing up a little bit, but the paint's not really coming off. I don't know if you can see anything there, but surprisingly, yeah. All right, so that's pretty handy paint. I mean, if I'm throwing this around in the boat, I'm not too worried about that paint coming off or getting scratched up too much, unlike some things. But yeah, cool. Let's go outside. I've gone ahead and strapped a couple of weights on the bottom of these guys, and what I want to see is how they self-right. When I mean self-right, I mean when you throw them in the water, like most duck hunters do, you just toss your decoys out there. When they hit the water on their backs, will they flip over with a little bit of extra weight on the bottom? You know, those keels are supposed to help them flip up and self-right. So if we toss this mallard in there on its back, not a problem there. About this goose, again, not a problem. Let's get it back out. And the weights I have on there are just deep enough that shouldn't be a problem. All right, try one more time. Not a problem. Flip right on over. Now for the ultimate test. Let's see how the ducks like these decoys and see if they mind them too much. So if you throw it in some shallow water, where that anchor's not really, it's going to have a little bit of slack to it when it hits the water there. Seems to self-right just fine as well. Let's see how it moves in that water though. Some pretty decent motion moving back and forth left to right like it's swimming in the current, but hopefully it's showing. Those actually look really good outside in the natural light. That tan turns to a little bit more of a gray. And that's a pretty decoy. Move to the goose. Again, I want to try the same thing where I'm going to take this goose and flip him over. Seems to be self-righting itself pretty well. Caught itself in the bind. Let's see what it does. There it goes. Let's see what kind of motion we get out of that. So again, we get pretty good motion out of that. Seems to be swimming all right. It's not too heavy where it's not going to move if we disturb the surface of the water. And again, that's a good looking decoy. Don't know if you can tell on camera, but it looks really good sitting there. Another issue we run into in the hunting world, especially with our decoys, is having them in the bottom of the boat. Scrambling in the morning, putting them out in the dark, whatever it may be, these things get stepped on. So let's see how they handle a fairly sized man like myself. Start with our goose here and see how it does when I stand on it. Oop, a little wiggly. It definitely pushed down a little bit, but not necessarily breaking. All right, a little dented in. See if we can straighten him back out here. There you go. Good as new. Next we have our mallard. A little less surface area to squish down, but see what damage we can do to it. Pull its head back. As you see, it's kind of flating itself back up already, but let's push down on the side. Squeeze it back out. There we go. Cool. The last test I want to do these guys is take this ice pick here and see how easily it can be penetrated. If a shotgun shoots it, you'll put a hole in it. I haven't met a decoy yet that can take that other than like the super foam filled ones at 30, 40 yards. But let's see how this goose does. I'm gonna do my best to put a little hole in it here. All right, so it's in there. Got yourself a little hole. So not super hard to penetrate, very easy to penetrate. But I knew coming into this that most decoys are that way. The front itself right here is actually a lot harder, which is cool. But you get into this back part here. The thing a lot of people are trying to do now is make their decoys a little bit more flexible, like your Avian X's, and these DOAs are kind of the same way, but just a little bit more firm than Avian X is, and you know, not too bad. So yes, you're going to put a hole in it if you stab it. There's your hole. These are not foam filled, which nowadays I'd love to have a foam filled, but you know, you've got to go for specific ones, and you've got to like the pattern of the foam filled and all this stuff, and that's just not every decoy is that way. So let's try the back tail here. That's nice and hard. So easily penetrated if you're going to shoot it, or if you know, a sharp stick, maybe not so much, probably bounce off of it. But if you slip and fall and have a sharp object, you'll put a hole in it. Let's see about this guy here. Same thing. Haven't met too many decoys that you can't really stab. So just for comparison here, because I've got them, here is a very old decoy. You know, if I take my ice pick, it goes in a lot easier than this other one did. So if that tells you anything, maybe the plastic's a little bit nicer on the newer ones. You know, because this is very easy to poke through, even if I just take my hand and slowly push into it. So, old duck decoy. Now I got this old Bigfoot goose decoy. Let's see how it does. It's kind of got about the same flex that the DOA does. That's a little bit harder on the top to go through. What about the side? Side's about the same. Back here, harder. About the front breast here. Goes in a little bit easier than your DOA. So, just for a base comparison, these guys actually did pretty well. You know, once I got outside, I saw the paint outside. I liked it a lot more. It wasn't as shiny, but it was kind of a dull day. It's not very bright outside today, so maybe in the sun it might be a little bit more shiny, but overall, once this got wet, this tan looked a little more gray to me, which I liked. Wasn't as bright, wasn't as, you know, fluorescent in a way. It looked really nice in the pond there. Same thing goes for this goose. Very impressed. I like the way that it sat. One thing to note is how easily it seemed to kind of move in the water. It wasn't a very fast flow, but it was enough to get it to just move ever so slightly to look like a duck swimming. And that looked really good. The way that it kind of moved in the water, how easily it moved in the water, all that stuff. I like that a lot. Even with this goose, it still had a little bit of movement. I was kind of worried about the self-righting itself. I heard some problems about that, but it did just fine for me. If you put it in really shallow water and you toss it out and it lands on a grass mat, it is what it is. You're not going to find many decoys that are just going to flip over on themselves when you throw it in a grass mat. That's not how that works either. So keep that in mind. Now, with all that being said, these are not the most inexpensive decoy that you can find. You are going to pay for what you get. And with these mallards, they're the Refuse series. They run about $80 for a 6-pack, which is not cheap. But again, you get what you pay for. I think it's a nice product. I don't know if I would spend the $80 on it just because I'm a little bit cheaper and I don't have all that kind of money, but not a bad decoy. $80, you're going to get a nice product and they'll stand by it. You know, they're not going to let you go unsatisfied if you hate it. So that. The goose for a 6-pack runs a little bit higher. I've seen them as low as 180. I've seen them as high as 200. That is a very pricey decoy to me. But again, you get what you pay for. It's a very sturdy product. It's got a nice head on it. I don't feel like I can rip the head off super easily, but if I turn it the right way, it will come off. So just get it locked in place. I don't think it's going anywhere. Nice features, good paint. I don't think you're going to have problems with it wearing off super quickly like some of these other decoys, these older decoys. You can kind of smack it or scratch it or get it hit it against the boat, and the paint comes off within a season. I've had a few like that, and we'll probably get to those where I wasn't very impressed after a couple of uses. But these guys here, I wouldn't worry about it. I think these paint's going to last. I think they're going to hold up for a couple seasons at least. And when you get tired of the paint, just paint it again. And it's a solid carve. The feathering, everything like that, it's nice. So if you're looking for new decoys and you don't mind spending a little bit extra to get a good product, look into DOA Decoys. I think they're going to make you happy. I think you're going to like what you get. And I don't think you're going to regret anything about it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this was useful information when you want to buy some decoys. So like, subscribe, comment down below what you'd like to see so we can get it reviewed and get it back to you. Thanks for watching, everybody.